Good morning, everybody. My name's Justin Rogers. We're here at Transwest Truck Trailer RV. Today we're going to be doing another Winnebago EKKO on the Mercedes chassis. So the model number for that will be 23B. There's a couple new changes for the EKKOs that just came in. So you've probably seen a couple of the other videos that we did pointing them out, but we'll just go over them again. So as per usual, the Mercedes EKKO is going to be on the Mercedes all-wheel drive chassis. It's going to be a twin turbo 4-cylinder with all-wheel drive. So switching from the older Mercedes chassis to the new Mercedes chassis gives you a couple extra inches of ground clearance, as well as being all-wheel drive all the time instead of having the transfer case to go into 4-wheel drive on the old chassis. So what that means to you is just a couple extra inches of ground clearance, as well as a little bit more safety and traction during inclement weather, snow, rain, anything like that. As we're approaching the cold season and the snow season here in Colorado, it'll be important to a lot of our customers that use these EKKOs for skiing and for that peace of mind while driving. So on the front of the Mercedes EKKO, you're going to have a long sloped windshield, a short nose, as well as the roof cap that kind of holds the same angle. So it is a fiberglass roof cap. There is insulation built in up there, so it's just going to help give it a little bit more storage inside, as well as it makes it a nice clean look at getting into that interior height that you get in the EKKOs versus the Class B. Going down to the wheels, so you do have the Winnebago aluminum wheels. They are the BF Goodrich KO3s, so it's a little bit more aggressive tire than they've done in the past. Gives it a little bit meaner look that you would expect in the Winnebago EKKO, especially since it's an off-road vehicle. On the passenger side, you're going to have one of the side steps to get in. You'll also have a little catch on each side, so you can use that for a dog leash or a bike chain, anything that you want to do. It's just so it doesn't go missing or an animal running off and anything like that. In the door right here, you'll see a couple different things. So on the seat itself, the passenger is going to have lumbar support, so you can adjust the pressure that you get on your back and additional supports just so it's more comfortable. On the seat itself, you'll also have the little leg extension. And then in the door card, you'll see memory seats 1, 2, and 3. So it's usually the passenger, and then third they'll do for setting the position for turning the seat around. You'll also have heated seats on both the driver and passenger side. So it just makes it a little bit more comfortable, and especially on those longer drives. Okay. So this first cubby here is going to be one of your small cubbies. You'll also be able to see your inverter in here. So you can see the patio weave as long as the aluminum lip in here. So this whole section is what the floor consists of throughout the coach. So that's going to give it a little bit of that insulation factor on the interior. That patio weave is very stain resistant, as well as it's very durable. So if you're one that wants to travel with pets and stuff, it's very easy to clean, very easy to vacuum, and very rugged against any of abrasions and stuff that you might get on it. Inside this compartment, you're also going to have the plastic, the composite bottom right here, and that's going to be for all the stuff that helps from it sliding around, as well as scratch resistant, durable, and just makes it where you're not going to wear out the compartments like you'll get those cheaper wood interiors on a lot of the other ones. So your exterior door is going to be a wide door. It's solid. There's no window cut out in it, and the reason for that is just so it has an increased insulation. You also have the fabric on the inside, so it just gives it a little bit more finished of a look. You'll have the locking arm up top. That's very common in a lot of our diesel pushers, so it's just a little bit of a high-end feature on the B+ or C motorhome, whichever one you consider the EKKO. So the screen door is going to have actual bug screen, and then it's also going to have metal mesh on the interior. So if you're one that has dogs or anything like that, you don't have to worry about them busting out the screen. One of the other cool features about this screen door is it does have a little deadbolt lock that you can use. So in the warmer times, you can actually lock your screen itself and leave your entry door open. That way you can still get all the airflow, but you don't have to worry about someone just walking in and out of your motorhome, or if you're sleeping with the door open when it's hotter and you don't want to have to use the AC and stuff. So you also have the little latch as far as the screen, and then this is metal instead of plastic like you get in a lot of other motorhomes. So the next compartment is going to be the other half of that front one on there. So in the 23B, that they kind of split that compartment on each side of the door, whereas the 22A counterpart is just going to be a single wider compartment. So with this one, we'll cover a couple of the changes that they did on this one. So the most recent EKKOs that we just got in, they switched the latches on these. So these are a little bit more easy to open, whereas the other ones, if they got cold or they got hot and they stuck themselves to the seal, it's kind of hard to pry it open. But here you can actually get your fingers behind it and get a little bit of tension on that the latch to pull it open just a little bit easier. Next to that, you're going to have two 110 outlets. You're also going to have a 12-volt plug with a cable outlet. So if you want to use a 12-volt TV or just a little plug out here to charge a phone or something, you can do that. Down below, you're going to have another aluminum wheel. You'll also have a steely on the inside because this is a dually chassis. You'll still have the BF Goodrich KO3, so it's matching set all the way around, just a little bit more aggressive a look, just like we talked about. So over here, so this is going to be a continuous water heater. So it's called the Truma AquaGo. The controls for it are going to be inside. It's very easy to use. You go inside, you turn it on, you can put on EKKO to set the water temperature. And it's only going to use propane whenever you're using hot water, just like you would expect in a house. The compartment below the Truma is going to be your propane tanks. So in here you're going to have two 20-pound propane tanks. So these are your standard size grill tanks for the grill you'd have at home. So they're very easy to find. You can exchange them, you can fill them. A lot of gas stations, farm stores, anything like that will have these tanks for you, so you can exchange them. So it's a lot easier to source propane versus having to find somewhere that can fill a chassis mounted tank. So that's why EKKOs have stuck with this design over the years, whereas a lot of the competitors are trying to use the chassis mounted tank. Below that, you're going to have an external propane hookup. So if you want to utilize an outdoor grill, you can do that. The little black piece down here is going to be your blind spot monitoring. So for the 2026 models, like the midway changes for that, they actually made this piece a little bit more flatter and more flush. So it's less, it protrudes out a little bit less than before. So that's going to help out with clearances or fitting into those tighter spaces or knocking that plastic piece off. So back here is going to be the same. So it's one of the main reasons people will upgrade from B-Vans to EKKOs. You have your exterior storage. So in the compartment itself, you're going to have a rubber mat down below. You'll also have that same composite floor that we saw in there. You'll have ram tracks in all four corners in there, so you can strap things down, store coolers, store bikes, anything that you want. Just makes it very easy to get in and out of this. So this compartment can be open from all three sides, just so you can get in and out of it from any side. If you put a rear tire carrier on there, bigger ladder, stuff on the back, you can use one of the side doors instead of blocking the rear door. Or if you put like a side mounted rack or anything like that, you can still get in here. So one of the cool things about this rear compartment is it is insulated and enclosed, and it's also heated along with the interior. So if you're heating the inside, there's a return, and then there's also the exhaust in here. So it's keeping this rear compartment under the bed warm as well. So if you need to keep any additional water when you're doing your snow camping, you can do that, especially during ski season here in Colorado. One of the other cool things is you do have push button lights on both sides, so you'll always have light in here. You won't have to worry about using a little flashlight. You have 110 on both sides. You'll also have 12-volt plugs on both sides. So if you need to charge any e-bikes, any gear, GoPros, anything like that, depending on your adventures, you can do that. On the doors on both sides, you'll have MOLLE panels. So MOLLE panels is just a modular hanging storage that you can do. You can buy little clips for those on Amazon, from our parts store, anything like that. Just so you can have a little bit more storage in here and take up as much of this dead space as you can, so you can bring as much stuff as you need. Jody, if you want to pan up a little bit. So while we're standing at this angle, we'll show a couple different things on it. So you can see the 3 windows on the passenger side. So this is going to give you a lot of natural light on the inside, and we'll cover that once we get in there. But at the top of this, you also have the roof-mounted awning. So it is the Carefree armless awning. So you do have the arms tucked up into the frame of the awning instead of going down perpendicular down the sides of it. So the light bar is going to be built into the end cap right there. So if you do have that awning closed all the way in, you still have a good porch light if you need it, as well as that porch light that's mounted to the left of the door a little bit. So there's a lot of way to get exterior light in this, as well as having a good amount of shade. So the awning itself is a one-touch awning, so you can hit extend or retract, and it's going to bring itself all the way out or all the way in once it's properly set, and you won't have anything to think about that. Obviously, if it's wind, you know it's going to be windy, bring it in. It does have a wind sensor in it to suck itself in, but it's only going to take one good gust, just like every other awning that there is. On the rear of this unit, so starting at the top, you'll have in that little block up there, you'll have two cameras in there. So one's going to be the reverse camera that you can use while going low speeds or when you're in reverse. The top mounted camera that you can see a little bit easier is going to be your rear view mirror camera. So that rear camera is going to be about 1 car lengths out. So if anybody's riding real close to you, you're not going to be able to see them. But it is located in the rear view mirror, and it is always on. So you can get a good glance at what's going on behind you, especially when you're riding on the highway or backing up in certain areas and stuff. So to the right, you're going to have a rear ladder. So this is equipped with a luggage rack up there. Now, the luggage rack doesn't have much storage capabilities just because all of the roof solar is tied into it. If you wanted to put some stuff up there, you can, but it's going to start interfering with your solar. So with the Mercedes EKKOs, I believe it's 545 watts of solar already mounted on the roof. If you choose the option for a pop top, it's going to bring that down to a 220. So if you're one that doesn't need those extra guests or the rooftop tent, you'll have a lot more off-grid capabilities with this one. So this will be the access to the rear storage compartment here. This one does have a handle. So if those side doors ever get stuck, you can pull this door open, unlatch those, and then push from either side just to help free up that door. Because over time, those seals will get really, really tight and hold that door shut really well. So that's one of the benefits that those new latches help to make it easier to open when that does happen. Down below, you're going to have your tow hitch. So it's rated for 5,000 pounds, and it already has a 7-way plug in there. So if you wanted to tow a small trailer, a small car, you can do that. You have the capacities for it. So whatever you're comfortable with putting back here, or you can just use an additional cargo rack. If you're doing it as a cargo rack, it's capable of holding 500 pounds of vertical weight. So just be careful not to overload that if you do need that extra bit of storage on that. So passenger side. So again, this is just another view of that rear storage compartment. So you get to see it from all 3 sides. Up above this compartment, you're going to have a batwing awning. So it's the Alucab batwing awning. So you'll unzip the bag, you'll grab the end of it, and you'll pull it all the way around. So it covers 270 degrees, and it'll clip into this metal part here, and then you can adjust the tension on it. So right now, it's not that hot out. It's barely sunny, and it's kind of cold, so we're not going to pull the awning out for you. But it does have a leg in the middle of it that you can stake down into the ground. It is a lot lower profile versus the patio awning that's mounted to the roof line over there. So you can have it out when you have some rain. You can have it out when it's a little bit windy. It's going to be a little bit more durable than the other one. But obviously, if you know it's going to be really windy, just close it up like you would the other one. All right. So the next bay over here is going to be one of your more important bays. So it's going to be your water bay. So you'll have your fresh water fill up here. You'll have a light if you need to access this down at night. You'll have a water pump switch down here. The reason that's there, if you ever need to use this outdoor shower. This is hot and cold. So if you want to rinse off a dog, rinse off a stuff, anything you can do, you can make it a little bit more comfortable instead of just having a cold water output like you'll have in most of the B vans. Below that, you're going to have the freshwater valve, so you can have it set to normal, which is city connection, or tank fill. You have a winterization valve down here. You'll also have cable and satellite inlets, so you can run those through the bottom along with your freshwater hose, and that way you can keep this compartment door closed and keep it warm, again, especially during the winter time. Off to the left right here, you're gonna have a designated heat vent. So if your heat is on inside, it is pumping hot air in here. So this spot is on the inside of the sidewall in here. You also have the same exterior door that's cut out of the sidewall. So it is extremely well insulated, but it also gives you the peace of mind that there is a heat vent blowing in this compartment, keeping it nice and warm in here. Down below, you're gonna have two little hangers, another winterization valve. You're gonna have fresh tank drains and low point drains. And then you'll also have the dump for your gray tank. So you'll have 51 gallons of gray in this and 50 gallons of fresh. So plenty of capabilities and water capacities to go extended periods of time without coming back from a trip just to get some more water, because that's usually the limiting supply when you're going off-grid camping. At the very bottom of this, you're going to have the cutout for draining that, or for that hose. So it is a twist lock, so very easy to get in and out. You'll also have a little slider over here to run the coax in, as well as run that hose out. So if you are doing winter camping and you do want water on board, be assured that you have your heat on, and then make sure you're using a heated water hose, just so the hose itself does not freeze up whenever you're at those campsites. To the left of that, you're gonna have a Winnebago smart plug, so you'll have a green indicator light whenever you do have 110 power plugged up. If you do have dirty power or anything's cross-wired, this will change colors to let you know that it's not a good power source, and it will protect the motorhome itself. We still recommend getting an aftermarket surge protector just in case campsite has any storms or anything like that, just so you don't fry any of the internals of the motorhome. Above that, you're gonna have a exterior solar port, so if you want to get a solar suitcase, you can get that, plug it in, and then drag it out and put it in the sunshine, just to give you that little bit more power depending on how off-grid you're trying to be. You'll have the vent for the Truma Vario. So the Truma Vario is going to be controlled on that same panel as the Truma Agua Hot we saw on the other side. It's going to be your LP furnace on the inside, so you can set the temperature of it. It does have a temperature probe in there, so it can see how hot it is, as well as what the current temperature is, and you can set the fan on and off just to have it circulating air, or you can have it where the fan's on auto, just like you would in a house, where it's only running that fan whenever it needs to heat stuff, just so you're not wasting any extra battery on it. So this compartment down here is going to be your generator. So on the Mercedes chassis, you're not allowed to tap into the diesel tank anymore. So you'll see a lot of the industry has switched to LP generators. So this is tied into those two 20-pound tanks that we saw over there. It's more than enough power to power this motorhome when you do have the generator turned on, but really its main purpose is to charge the lithium battery on this one. There we go. So up above that is going to be a cassette toilet. So the cassette toilet, it has an insulated door just like everything else. It's a removable 5-gallon black tank essentially. So it does have the spout where you can dump it, an air release just to let it flow out a little faster. You do have a handle as well as some wheels on it. So you can take it, you can dump it into a porta potty, you can dump it into a dump station, anything like that. If you do need more than 5 gallons, you can buy additional tanks separately, and then you can just swap them out if you don't have the means to dump one wherever you need it. You can put it in the storage bay or something like that, and then put the empty one in there. So this next compartment's gonna be another part of your water system. So down here, you're gonna have what's called a whale pump. So the whale pump is gonna sense water coming from the shower inside or from the sink. Once it senses that, it's gonna pump the water back to the gray tank. So the gray tank and the fresh tank are both located under the bed. And they do that just so weight distribution, as well as it keeps it inside. You don't have any exterior tanks on this motorhome, and that's what gives it that extended season capabilities. So if you're concerned about what protects this pump, you do have anodized aluminum in here. That's why it has that blue color. So that's gonna help reflect the heat and keep it nice and insulated in here, as well as a designated heat vent, just like the other water bay too. So again, lots of heat going into here just to protect this pump, especially during the colder climates. So this last bay is going to be what was one of the big changes that they offer now. So it used to be where you could only get a 630 amp hour battery with no generator, or a generator with the 320 battery, so you'd get half the lithium. So now we've got a couple of these in, but basically what it did is give you even more off-grid capabilities. So now you have double the lithium capacity as well as the generator to charge that lithium battery if you do ever need to turn that on just to charge it up quicker, and you don't have the means to drive the motorhome down the road just to get the batteries charged up and the solar's not keeping up. So again, more extended off-grid capabilities. Very nice that they're finally offering that for a lot of our customers. And it, again, puts the EKKO ahead of the game compared to a lot of the competitors. Down below it, you'll have a few resettable fuses down here. So they're all labeled and they're all isolated. So if you're not getting power for something, you can always just come out here, check the fuse, just push it in, and that'll reset it. Very easy to do. The driver's side. So the driver's side is going to be very similar to the passenger side. You'll just have a few more controls over here, obviously. So still have lumbar support on here, still have the memory seats and the heated seats. You'll have the light controls off to the left, as well as fog lights, the brightness of the dash and everything like that. But then on the side of the column for the Mercedes, the 2025 Mercedes chassis, you'll also get a heated steering wheel as well as an updated steering wheel. So just again, add to those creature comforts that Mercedes has over all the other chassis. And Winnebago wanted to use the more premium chassis just so you get a little bit nicer product, and it makes those longer drives a little bit more comfortable. All right. So now we'll work our way to the inside of the EKKO. Let's see. So right as you walk in the door, there'll be a few buttons right at the entry door. You'll have your awning controls. So those are the extend and retract. Those are the one-touch controls that we talked about. The on and off switch is going to be for that bar light that is on the awning. You have a step switch. So when it's set to the off position, the step will stay out and it's not constantly coming in and out as you open the door. You can leave it in the off position. So when the motorhome does go in drive, it'll automatically suck that step in and you don't have to worry about it. But you can also see it in one of those side mirrors if for some reason the step fails or anything like that. You'll have the main battery disconnect right as you walk in the door. You'll also have a lot of your roof light switches. So there are a few push button lights throughout the unit, but this turns on the ceiling lights so you get most of your light right as you walk in. And then right here you'll also have a resettable GFI. This is going to be one of the main plugs that you use for the induction cooktop since it's completely removable. All right, Jody, if you want to step in where it's nice and warm. So we're going to do this one a little backwards today just to make it ease of flow. So we're going to start in the bedroom. So back in the bedroom of the EKKO, you'll see a couple steps up to the beds. It makes it a little bit easier to get on and off the beds. Just got to remember that the steps are there, but it also makes it where they can have these, the beds higher up. So the reason for that is you can have a little bit more storage underneath, as well as that rear storage compartment is flush instead of having it where there's steps in the bed itself and it's not as comfortable. So having this bed raised up gives you a couple storage compartments. So you'll have one on the driver's side right there. So in this compartment, there'll be hanging storage at the top of it. There's also a cutout down at the bottom. So that cutout down at the bottom is going to be accessing your water pump. So Winnebago sends you with a few accessories from the factory. So we just take those out of the box and we store them in just convenient places so we know that they came with the motor home. So there's the outside shower. That's the spray port for that. And then that's just a little beginner sewer hose just so you can dump it into a dump station. So when this bed is lifted up, you have access to the top portion of it. So there is a little metal tray here. I don't recommend putting much stuff here, but if you need to put a couple small items, you can put them there. You do have a drawer on this side as well, so you can see everything a little bit easier when that bed is lifted up. So it does have a gas strut on there, so it does stay held up and you don't have to hold it up with your head or anything like you do in a lot of other motorhomes. So the bed itself. So the bed itself is a WinSleep bed. You do have, it's a multiple layers of different density foams on it. You'll also have a cooling layer built in. So it is an extremely comfortable bed, especially when the inside of the motorhome is warmer. For those of you who don't know, when memory foam gets really, really cold, it can get hard. So you just have to warm it back up, and then you get that the soft touch that you're used to feeling with memory foam. The bed itself is just an extra long twin bed right there, and then you'll also have these centerpieces that convert it into a sideways queen bed. So if you're a taller person and you can't sleep in it in a twin setup, you can put this centerpiece in the middle and you guys can still sleep in it sideways, just to get that bit of extra room if you still like to cuddle or anything like that. What's cool about that centerpiece though is it does have the hard plastic top on it. So this will act as your nightstand. So you have 2 cup holders, a little centerpiece, as well as a big tray in the center. What that means to you guys is you have a lot of plugs up here. You also have a cutout here. So if you need to drop cords down through, you can leave your phones, alarm clock, anything like that sitting on this tray without having to leave your phone up here. That way you can just have easy access to it instead of fumbling it around with it while you're half asleep. The lights down below, I have one set to blue and one set to white light right now. So the blue is a good little bit of light, but not too invasive, whereas the white light obviously is a lot brighter. So if you're one that likes to read at night, you can do this without disturbing your partner. So it just makes it a little bit more comfortable for them. You'll have storage on each side. So that right storage compartment is also going to have a couple outlets up there. So you'll have USB as well as another outlet. Again, just more spaces to plug stuff in. That could be the stuff you don't need easy access to, such as your tablets, computer if you work remote, or a laptop, anything like that. So on both sides of me are going to be large bay windows. So these bay windows are going to be throughout the coach. You'll have these little latches all throughout, and it keeps it a nice even seal. When you push them out, you'll have different sets you can lock these hinges at. That way you can choose how much airflow that you want to get. Now obviously there's no screen built into this, so you do have a bug screen built in, or it can be your day shade just to block out direct light. And when you let that down, you also have the little feature where you have that middle slot there. So you can put the lock in that middle slot and you still have a little gap down there where you can get airflow, but without having it all the way up, just so you don't get condensation buildup or anything like that in the motorhome, especially if you're sleeping in here. So the last part of this blind is going to be the blackout shade. So you can use this just as an additional vapor barrier, or you can use it to completely black out the motorhome. So the windows itself are going to be a dual pane acrylic. So again, nice way to keep the motorhome warm, adds to the insulation of it, and they're pretty durable windows versus like your traditional tempered glass that's in the motorhomes. And then the super hot climates or super cold, if you're trying to conserve that power usage, again, just pull the day shade up and use the lights in here, and then it's going to be 3 levels of vapor barrier just to add to that insulation. So Jody, this will be a hard one. While we're over here, we're going to cover the TV spot. So you do have a 110 plug as well as a cable outlet there. You do have a backer plate in this wall right here. So if you wanted to mount a bedroom TV in here, you can do so. And that way there's just a designated spot for it. Most people don't ever do that, but it's there if you want to do it. So the next side is going to be pretty much identical, right? We'll just cover these real quick. So these are going to be all the window shades for up front. So you have one for each of the door and then also one for the windshield. Winnebago does send these with them. They are insulated and relatively thick. They do act as a good way to keep out heat or keep in the heat if it's the colder climates like it is now. So we just keep them bunched up for now so they don't go anywhere. On this side, it's going to be similar to your other one, but you're going to have a hidden cubby. So this one will be a little bit deeper down there, so you can put a little bit larger items in there. You'll also have the pull for the center table. So the center table is a very large table that goes in between those two couch cushions, or the two couches up there, and it gives you a nice living room feature in this small motorhome where you don't get that in those Ford chassis. The Ford just has a flip-up table that lets you eat at that. You'll have access to the drawer here. You'll have access to one of your other winterization valves. And then you'll also have a hidden compartment down here. So guns, jewelry, travel documents, anything that you don't want people just to be able to open a drawer or open a cabinet and see, you have to know that this bed actually lifts up to be able to get into that compartment. So the last thing about these beds, we talked about the memory foam and stuff. Underneath the bed is a different unique support system. So this is going to be the Frawley spring system. So what that does is it helps alleviates pressure points on the bed, because each one of these can flex, but it also keeps the bed up in the air. So that's going to prevent moisture or condensation buildup in your mattress, helps keep the mattress cool, but also prevents any bacteria or mold growth in there from the humidity that you can generate while you sleep. So the next spot's going to be one of your controls. So this is the main Truma control that we saw, or like the items that we talked about inside. The one with the little RV picture is going to be how you control the interior temperature from your furnace. So you would just click on it, set the temperature, the furnace will kick on, heat it to that temperature, and it'll turn itself off. So the next one's going to be your water heater. Obviously turn it on. You can do EKKO mode, where it just keeps the tank circulating. It's kind of warm. Comfort, where it warms up a little bit faster. And then there's one that's called boost, where the water gets hot as fast as it can. You'll have a fan on here, so that's just going to turn the Truma fan, the Vario fan, on. That way it's just circulating the air through the unit. You have a timer. You have the warning symbol there, and it'll let you know if you have any error codes or anything like that. Then there's also the clock, and then the settings that you can set on this one. You'll have light switches for the bathroom down below. The reason they have the light switches outside versus inside is it's kind of hard to put any light switches in there when the water is getting sprayed everywhere in the shower. So the next portion we're going to cover is going to be the shower in this one. So we talked about it having a cassette toilet. So in here, when the wall is on this side, it's pretty much set into like the sink and the toilet mode. So you'll have a shower in here, you'll have a faucet, and you'll have a pretty decent sized mirror. You'll have the cassette toilet behind me, and the cassette toilet does rotate. So if you need to change positions, the door closed, anything like that, you can make it where it's a little bit more comfortable. You do have a window in here, so you can have that, and it does still retain the bug screens as well as that. And there is an outlet tucked away back in this corner that is tied into the GFIs. That way, if you need to use a hairdryer or anything in here, you still can. And then there's also a cabinet up above my head. So a little bit of bathroom storage in here as well. So one of the cool things about this is unique to the EKKO is converting it to a shower. So this is held against that wall with a magnet and a strap at the top, just so it doesn't come undone while you're going down the road. You'll rotate this wall, you rotate the wall all the way around. Then you'll have two hanging spots on here. It blocks off the toilet, the outlet, the sink, and everything like that, and it becomes a designated shower. So what's cool about that is once you have it set to that, you have a lot of space in here. So I'm only 5'9", 5'10" on a good day, and I have plenty of room in here. I got plenty of elbow room, and this makes it a lot less claustrophobic like you do in the Class B bathrooms, where you have a true wet bath that's about half the size of this, but then the toilet's right here as well. You'll have a curtain on the track that goes all the way around, so you can just close that off to help keep water off the walls and off the door and everything like that. You'll have the Oxygenics shower wand up there, so you can get a decent amount of water pressure through that, but it also has the shut off there, so that way you're conserving that water and not just letting it flow down the drain while you're soaping up your body, washing your hair, or scrubbing, anything like that. You know, just again, preserve water, because that's usually the limiting factor for any of your boondocking trips or off-grid camping styles.
Justin, quick question.
Okay.
Someone's asking, will this fit into a regular parking spot, or is it wider than that?
The width will fit in a regular parking spot. The length is where it's going to be a little bit longer. So the dually chassis, I think, is going to be about 24 foot 6 inches from tip to tail. So it's going to be about the same length as a truck, whereas a lot of the B vans, depending on which chassis you can get, they can be as short as a 19.6, or they can be about the same length as this if you did get a Mercedes 170 chassis. So width won't be the problem. Length is where you're running into like driving a dually truck, where it's a little bit long for your standard like grocery store parking lot and stuff. All right. So next thing we'll cover will be the kitchen area. So the kitchen area, you're gonna have the table that we talked about. So this table will pull out. It's a very large table. We're not gonna set it up right now because it'll make it too hard for me and Jody to walk around in here. But that pole that we saw underneath right there will go into this, and it'll go into that pedestal that is in the floor right behind Jody. So that table itself will be about this wide and about this wide. The bottom of it has a cable system and a track, so you can actually adjust the table back and forth. That way, if you have a larger person, shorter person, or you need to get it closer to someone else, that way it's a little bit easier to have 4 people sitting with that table versus any of the other floor plans where you have 2 and then a separate table for another person, anything like that. So it's a lot more family friendly, as well as a little bit better for any games associated with it. So while we're in this little section, you do have a curtain back here to block off the bedroom. So one of the reasons for this is you can separate this off, keep it nice and warm back here. Let the front of the motorhome cool down. Each of the vents that we saw has a little baffle in it, so you can close off different areas. There's a designated one in the bedroom if you want to sleep colder in there or sleep warmer in there and conserve propane usage during those nights. So it just depends on whatever your sleep needs are. So the kitchen area, you're going to have a big stainless steel round sink in here. So it is about twice as deep as the Ford EKKO. And you'll also have 2 little sink covers on it. So the sink covers give you a little bit more prep space, but it lets you hide any mess that you don't want. If you're like me and you want to leave dishes in the sink occasionally and worry about them the next day, it gives you the benefit of not seeing them. And down below, you're going to have 2 cabinet doors. You'll also have the house water filter right there. So it's, again, inside, protected from the elements, very easy to get to. If you're going to swap it out or winterize, make sure you put a little rag or something down there just so you don't have... just so you don't make a mess. You'll have another GFI outlet right above that. So we saw the one on the side of this counter when we came in. This one is another one on the front of it. So you'll have 3 drawers here. So this is the one that the induction cooktop comes from for the factory. It's a little bit harder to get in and out of here because it's about the same width, so you just have to slide your fingers in the front of it to get it out. I usually keep it in the second drawer just for demo, just because it's easier to get in and out. So the second drawer, we have the remotes in here, Max Air fan remote, the smart TV remote, and then a couple other things and accessories that come with the motorhome. And then this last drawer is going to be your deepest drawer. So you have another cover here. So what this is used for is you stick it, open that drawer, stick it in here, and then kind of pinch it closed a little bit, and it gives you a little bit more prep space to work with and kind of an L-shaped kitchen. The only inconvenience with this is it makes it a little bit harder to get in and out if you need to leave the kitchen area. But usually you're only in here for short periods of time because you're not making any 5-star meals when you're out camping in the woods. Alright, so the induction cooktop we talked about, that's going to be a removable single burner induction cooktop. Plug it in here, take it outside, depending on whatever your needs are. When you don't need it, you store it in one of the drawers. Then you have a lot more counter space up here to work with, especially when you pull out that little extension that you have. The sink itself is going to have a little sprayer. So again, just a little bit more residential feel. Up above that, you're going to have convection microwave. So convection, you hit convection, you set the temperature, it becomes an oven. Very easy to use, super convenient. You don't have the option of having an oven in the Ford EKKO, so just another one of those little added bonuses in the Mercedes. Big storage compartment up above. And then over here, you're going to have a shelf with adjustable shelves in here. So take these, push them up, set them up wherever you need. You'll have the plug for the microwave in here. This will be one of the easier compartments. So all of the shelves will have this felt lining in here. So that's just going to help with rattles, noise, objects sliding around. Just make it a little bit quieter during those longer trips and whenever you're hitting those hard bumps, just so it's a little bit more peaceful, I guess, would be the better term to use. All right, the last section of your kitchen area is going to be your fridge. So this is going to be, I think it's 5.3 cubic foot compressor driven fridge. So it's going to be 12 volt. So it's as simple as having battery power, turning it on, and it'll start cooling itself down. One of the benefits of a compressor driven fridge is it'll work on slopes, angles, anything like that, and it cools down rather quickly. I've only had this on for about an hour, and the freezer already feels like it's all the way down to temperature. You do have a little chest freezer up there. Again, very thick door just to keep that separate and insulated up there. And then you also have quite a few shelves for storage. So this will be about twice the storage that you get as far as fridge space compared to a Class B. And then the freezer space is only just a little bit more than you'd have in a B van. You'll also get some door shelves just for some smaller items. Up above here is going to be the other bank of main controls. So you'll have your ZAMP solar controller. It's going to be a 40 amp controller, so you do have plenty of room for expansion if you wanted to use one of those suitcase solars, as well as what's on top. It lets you have more access and be able to manage that power correctly compared to some of your smaller solar controllers. So they thought about the future-proofing this so you can have that additional power input. The next one's going to be kind of a monitor panel, so you can see the interior temperature here. Whenever you tap on it, you can set the temperature of the AC. So in the Mercedes, your AC thermos controls is tied directly into this panel. The Fords are going to have a separate AC next to that bathroom door. So if you go back, you have access to your power, so you can start and stop your generator from here. You can also see what your chassis voltage, chassis battery is at. And then if you tap on power systems, it's showing you what's pulling power and what's not pulling power. And then the last portion down here is going to be your different tank levels. So you can see your fresh and gray, we're at 0 right now. You can also see the temperature that it is at those tanks currently. And you'll also see your house voltage and your chassis batteries. So the house battery that is in this is going to be Winnebago's Lithium brand. You can connect your phone directly to that Lithium battery, and it'll tell you how much life left you have or power left you have left based on the current usage. So if you have the AC on, a bunch of lights on or anything like that, it'll say 16 hours based on current usage. When the AC cycles off, it'll recalibrate itself and adjust the battery life expectancy based on that usage. So it's a very cool feature to have on that app and to go through that. The next little panel is going to be one of your inverter controls. So you have 3 ways to turn off your inverter. So you can depress the power button here, the disconnect down under that compartment, or the button on the inverter itself just to power it down. That way you're not having any parasitic draw on that. The last spot up here is going to be 110 power, 12 volt power. You can put some accessories up here. There is a roof access port that's going to be that little round disc in there. So that's going to go straight up through the roof. So if you're one that wants to get the Starlink mounted directly onto the motorhome, or like get a roof mount for a Mini or anything like that, you have those cables or the ports already there, so you can just run it directly through, tie it in, and you're not having to cut any fresh holes in your roof. So the last little section in here is going to be the living room area. So right now I have it set up as the opposing couches. So you do have 2 additional seat belts in this motorhome. So you'll have the driver and the passenger. You'll have a sideways lap belt mounted down here below this seat. So you can have another person sitting there if you need it. So that seat will always be sideways. If you do have younger kids with you or anything like that, you'll have an additional seat here. So right now it's set up where you just have the big couches, makes it a little bit more comfortable, makes it a living area. So you'll move those cushions out of the way. you'll take the little flap back here. So that's there just to protect the back of that cushion, so you're not wearing it out over time, especially when you're leaning against it. You'll move that out of the way, and you'll flip this table up. So that's ready to go. And then you'll turn this cushion and face it forward. So now you'll have a seat with a 3-point harness. So if you have anybody that has a car seat or a child that you want forward facing or anything, you do have the option to have that seat. If you have a passenger or you work remotely, you have the upgraded Starlink back there and you need internet while you're driving down the road, this makes a good workstation for a laptop or anything like that. And then it does have an even additional extension here just to give it a little bit more prep space or workspace there. So if you don't want to bring out the big table and it's just 2 people camping or a couple like that, you can have one person here, spin the captain's chair around, and then have him just be able to use this smaller table without having to break out the big one. All right. So up above, you're going to have a couple different things. So you'll have storage on this left side. This will be one of your larger storage compartments. We keep the owner's manuals up here just so they're easy to find whenever we're doing our walkthroughs or anything like that. A lot of the time you'll see the insulated blanket stored up there, or you'll see it stored up in this front compartment. So on the outside of this compartment, you'll have 110 USB as well as a 12-volt plug. So just again, more power needs than you can get into. This insulated blanket that we talked about. So on the motorhome, on any motorhome, your front section is going to be your biggest loss of like heat or cool air. So what you want to do is isolate that. So this is a thick quilted blanket. It's going to help keep all of the air that you want in here, whether it's cool or warm, and separate it all. So you'll connect it to these button snaps all the way around, and then it'll block off these front portions. So there is a zipper in the middle so you can still access and get into the cockpit if you need to without having to yank the blanket down. But it's going to separate that area just to conserve that heat or AC, so you're not wasting power trying to cool this, because all of this may be acoustic glass, but it's not going to be double paned glass, so you're not going to have that same thermal factor that you will with all the other windows in here. So working your way around, you'll have a nice deep storage compartment on both sides. So this left one is going to be empty, so you can put whatever you need in here. A lot of people just shove this blanket up in there, depending on when you're camping, if you need it, or you can throw it at the garage at home. In the center, you're going to have a smart TV. So this is the entertainment system option. You'll have a Bluetooth soundbar here. You can have it tied into the radio, or you can use this as your interior speakers, just so you have some nice music going in the motorhome. To the right, you're going to have another little cubby. So this one will have cable, satellite hookups, power, as well as an HDMI slot that's tied into the back of the TV. So if you want a Blu-ray player or anything like that, this is the compartment you would put it in, and it'd be tied in directly to the TV, and it keeps it all out of the way instead of having like an AV cabinet or anything like that. To the right, more power, more USB, more 12 volt, and then you'll have the light switch for the overhead light right here. And the last compartment in here is just going to be a smaller one above this extra seat in the passenger side. Again, you need all the storage you can, especially in these smaller motorhomes. So the last thing we'll cover as far as the RV portion is right above my head. So this is going to be a max air fan. So there's a control in that second drawer that we saw, but you also have an auto feature on the max air fan itself. So the point of this is to act as an attic fan. So you can use this to suck out air while you're cooking. If it's a nice fall day and you want cool, fresh air in, you can have all of those windows open, the screens pulled down, and this will act like an attic fan that you'd have in a house. It's very good for evacuating any like smells or anything like that, but it also keeping fresh air moving in the motorhome. And if you're camping up in the mountains, especially like during the summer or the spring or anything, it's nice and cool when you're up at that elevation, so you don't have to run your AC or anything like that. So just a nice way to conserve more of that power and extend those camping trips. So the last portion down here is the chassis as always. So we'll go ahead and turn this on. So the Mercedes chassis, you're going to have a lot of creature comforts up here. So you'll have a lot of leg room on both the passenger and the driver's side. You'll have cup holders. up high as well as in both doors and in the center right here. Down below, you're going to have a 12-volt plug. You'll also have a 110 plug and then a USB-C. And you'll also have a designated spot to resync your key or to charge your key if need be. Whenever it does that, a lot of the times we'll have to stick the key in that port when we haven't turned on that motorhome in a while, just so it resyncs it. The Mercedes portion itself is going to be pretty easy to use. So you'll have your camera. This will automatically turn on whenever you're in reverse. You have built-in navigation that's going to use the Mercedes software there. Your telephone whenever you have it connected. Radio and media, quick buttons. So if you want to use Sirius XM, FM radio, anything like that, you can do that. The home button here. So this is going to let you get to the main page where you can access everything. There's a quick button for accessing all of your safety features. So downhill speed reduction, lane keeping assist, and then you can go to more vehicle settings there. Power and volume button, and then obviously the next buttons if you want to go back and forth on a song. Up above that, you're going to have that rear view camera we talked about. So that is always on when you're driving down the road. If you don't want to see the camera, you just flip it down and it turns the camera itself off. You can adjust the camera with the dials down below if you want to aim it up, down a little bit lower, up a little lower, or up a little higher depending on what you're trying to see. So just always on, another little point of safety. Up above, you're going to have 3 storage cubbies. So the left and right one are going to be just cubbies with the covers on top of them. They used to not have covers, so it makes it a little bit cleaner of a look and a little bit nicer that you can store stuff in there. Your middle cubby is going to be mainly for everything with your radio. So you'll have another 12-volt plug in there. You have a few USB-Cs, the USB-C that's tied into the radio. But one of the features that they added was wireless CarPlay, or wireless Android Auto, I think is what it's called. And you can connect it to there and just keep your phone up there and access everything like that. There's also a wireless charging mat up here, so it'll make it, if you're one that likes to keep your phone put away while you're driving, you can keep it up there charging and not having it plugged in or anything like that. This big box right here is going to be for all your safety features. So there's a camera on the other side of that. That's going to be for your adaptive cruise control, active lane assist, the sign reading, and everything like that. So just more benefits of the Mercedes chassis. The steering wheel. So the 25 chassis got a refreshed steering wheel. So you'll have more haptic buttons over here. And then they're also still push. So you can... it's a little bit cleaner of a look, but also a little bit more intuitive, especially given the times that they are. The right side is going to control everything on this right panel. The left side is going to control everything in here. You still have access to all of your depth gauges and all the different settings in here. So you can just move it around, just depending on what options that you want to see. And your adaptive cruise control is going to be the bottom portion of this. So you can set your car lengths, your speed, anything like that. The right side of your column is going to be the shifter. Park is pushing in the button. Drive and reverse is down and up. The left side is going to be blinkers, high beams, as well as your windshield wipers. And then with the newer Mercedes chassis, they do have the spray nozzles built into the wipers themselves, so it gets a bit more even distribution of the spray or the liquid on top of the windshield and cleans it a little bit better. Up above, this will be the last thing for it. You'll have a couple cubbies, the visor right there. You'll have an SOS button for the Mercedes, little sunglass holder, reading lights on both sides, as well as a light for when the doors automatically open, and then another cubby up above the passenger. So that is going to be it for this. So if you have any questions about the new Winnebago EKKOs, feel free to contact me. My name's Justin. My phone number is 404-936-6215. If you prefer email, it's justin.rogers@transwest.com. This has been another Winnebago EKKO. If you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me. See you in the next one.